Good health is a crown worn by the healthy that only the ill can see. Your health really is your wealth. Join us for the next hour as we explore disease and attaining and maintaining good health. This is Dis-Chem Medical Monday, brought to you by Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
It's Monday here in Johannesburg. You're listening to the Dis-Chem Medical Monday show here on 101.9 Chai FM. My name is Nicholas Ingle, and I'm chatting with Leanne Kiezer, registered dietitian and head of public affairs at Danone. We're going to be chatting gut health. Excuse the pun, but this is something close to my heart. So stick with us, and we're going to talk about why, in my opinion, and I think in Leanne's as well, this is the most important system in the body and can have the biggest effect on our quality of life. Leanne, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your time.
What a pleasure to be here, Nick. Thank you so much.
And something really, I'm chuffed about this. I know we've got World Gut Health Day coming up, and something that we really do need to focus on, because, you know, we look at nutrition, we look at dieting, we look at all of these things, but we don't really look at, you know, am I putting in my body what I need to get the most out of it? Am I putting in my body what could be creating toxins, and not to scare people, but slowly poisoning myself? Am I putting into my body stuff that's making me in a bad mood, affecting my day-to-day quality of life? So really looking forward to getting into this conversation. So let's touch on the gut biome, the microorganisms that are in our system, and sort of let our listeners get an understanding of what's going on inside.
Yeah, it's really exciting, because now more than ever, we have realized, to your point, that the gut is the gateway to our overall health. The science has never been more prominent and more developing on this topic. So exactly, let's get into it. So what do we mean when we talk about gut health? Remember that inside you, your gut is actually made up of trillions of microbes. It sounds gross, but you mustn't be scared of them. You must embrace them. They are bacteria, fungi, viruses, trillions, literally trillions of unique microbes make up your gut. And every individual has a unique build or makeup of microbes in their body. And they are as unique to you as your fingerprint is. And this little community of microbes in your gut is collectively what we call the gut microbiome. I'm sure we've all heard that term before. And more, the science is showing us that the quality of your gut microbiome influences your health outcomes. And when we say quality, what we're talking about is, first of all, diversity. So the more the different types of microbes you have in your gut, this is really good news. The more variety and diversity, the better. And the other thing is that we're talking about abundance. We want abundance, a lot of beneficial, healthy bacteria in the gut. And scientists can show now that if they take a sample of your gut microbiome, they can tell, based on this abundance and diversity, whether you are predisposed for different conditions. And of course, some of them you can imagine are digestive conditions like, IBS or digestive discomfort issues, lactose intolerance, things which are isolated to the gut. Of course, that makes sense. But more and more, it's becoming a topic of broader health, including, we know from your gut microbiome whether you are predisposed to becoming overweight or obese, developing heart disease, developing type 2 diabetes. And the most emerging topic is the topic of the gut being the second brain. So we can actually predict from your gut microbiome whether you are at higher risk of developing mental health conditions or disorders, things like depression, schizophrenia, anxiety. And the beauty of this is that, if you consider the cells that are made up in your body and the DNA that you're blessed with and born with, there's not a lot that you can do to manipulate or influence your cells and DNA, right? You kind of get what you get. But when it comes to your gut microbiome, in fact, this can be influenced and manipulated and changed through your lifestyle, through your diet, within a matter of days, that can either, if you're practicing healthy practices, can actually protect your health and help you, prevent these long-term illnesses that I talked about just now, of heart disease, diabetes, mental health conditions, and so on. Or if you're harming your gut microbiome and not protecting it to the potential that you should, you can actually be preceding yourself to these various conditions. And so it's a really exciting time, because more than ever, we recognize the sensitivity of the gut, not just being a place where central activities are happening in the body of digestion and, nutrient absorption. Of course, that's essential and critical, but so much more. And so today is your calling, that if you haven't already been paying attention to your gut health, now's the time, because you can influence your long-term health outcomes by concentrating on the gut.
I absolutely love that point, that we can't do anything about our genetic makeup. Currently, those are your genes. This is I can't grow taller. I can't grow my hair back. I suppose I'm not going to Turkey, but, without external surgery, but we can do so much to alter our quality of life. And, in terms of what we're putting into our systems. A book that stood out for me many years ago was Dr. William Davis's book, Wheat Belly. And he spoke about, with the studies in the Scandinavian countries, because healthcare was free, they funded that by providing information, generational information, to research facilities and universities. And if I recall correctly, they were looking at issues like Hashimoto's, celiac, and most importantly, silent celiac disease, where people were eating wheat or gluten and it was affecting their cognitive ability and their cognitive function, basically fuzzy brain. And then, you have your sandwiches, you have your toast, you go off to school and you're getting lower grades because you're going with a fuzzy brain and you think that you're just not that smart, and that can affect your entire life. That stood out for me very, very strongly. And now, with the understanding that we have about the gut, and to eat for our specific bodies, to treat our body for our specific bodies through exercise, nutrition, hydration, we can actually change that. So we're not stuck in our genes, as it were. It's the most wonderful thing. Can you give us a little bit more info, sort of the research that's being done and the understanding that's evolving around the gut and how profound it is in our quality of life?
Yeah, so Danone globally, as you can imagine, is a company which is vested in the topic of gut health, because we are vested in the topic of fermentation. So just for some background there, fermentation is using bacteria to develop certain properties in food. This is, of course, how we make yogurt. It's through the fermentation of milk. So it's the adding of bacteria to milk to be able to produce yogurt. And then in the end, why this is interesting for us is that when you consume that yogurt, you consume the bacteria in the yogurt. The bacteria enters the gut microbiome, where we can now see interesting health effects. So we are extremely interested as an organization in those health effects. And as a result, we have vested heavily on nutrition science development and science capacity building. Actually, in 2023, we launched another nutrition research center in Saclay in Paris, where we partner with over 200 various scientists and healthcare professionals who are bringing us to the forefront of this microbiome research. And the Global Microbiome Project is led by Professor Rob Knight. If you haven't looked him up, now would be a good time. And it's a fascinating thing, because it's allowing us to, through the collection of samples of microbiome, I will let you imagine what that looks like and what those samples look like in reality, we are able to map and predict, based on people's microbiomes, whether or not they are preceded for certain conditions, like obesity, like chronic diseases, like diabetes, and so on. And like I said, like mental health disease. And then if we are able to use that information to influence the environment that our gut is fostering, then this will allow us to prevent those conditions. And what this has allowed Danone to do is actually, through the use of AI, develop something called an artificial gut at this research facility.
Wow.
In which we can test different bacteria and we can see the body's reaction to that bacteria and therefore what the long-term health outcomes will be. And from this, we have some very good signs, of what is the recommended dietary intake when it comes to fostering a healthy gut microbiome and protecting your long-term health.
I absolutely love that, and we're going to pay the rent. Now, when we're back, I want to touch on also, just because you can do it, Danone can do this at scale and really have a profound effect on a population or on a population group. So we are chatting with Leanne Kiezer. She is a registered dietitian and head of public affairs at Danone South Africa. You're listening to the Dis-Chem Medical Monday show here on 101.9 Chai FM.
This is Medical Monday, brought to you with the compliments of Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
And we are back. Leanne, just before we went to ad break, you were chatting about the research that's being done. This, it sounds amazing, an artificial intelligence gut, which really, you can use to run models on and to test. And obviously, I'm sure all of our audience understood where the samples are coming from. But, as a company of the size of Danone, this is really an opportunity to scale massively and affect a massive population in terms of improving gut health. I want to touch on that just before we go into some more sort of gut questions. What's the vision? What's the outlook?
Yeah.
What's the dream? Let me say that.
The dream, here it is. The dream is that Danone is in the process of developing something that we're calling precision biotics. And what it means is that one day, not too far in the future, you will be able to choose a yogurt that will fulfill your particular health need or health outcome, be it, decreasing IBS, be it decreasing prevalence for type 2 diabetes, be it improving, digestive comfort or decreasing constipation. But whatever it is that might be your particular health need as an individual, there will be a panel of yogurts available in your local retailer with a precision biotic, which has been clinically tested through regular consumption into the AI gut to be able to produce or relieve a particular health need. And that is the vision. So it's a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, and I think that ties back into the Hippocratic Oath with physician, let food be your drug, effectively. And it's really eating your way healthy. I think my mind's a little bit blown with this concept. And it is really something that's so wonderful, because for myself personally, I'm old school, so I call it a spastic colon, with IBS, a gluten intolerance. So all of these wonderful food allergies that when I was young, they did the arm pinprick thing with a whole run of these things, and everything blew up. So having challenges with food is really something that hammered me quite early on in life, particularly with the gluten, and learning to deal with that and sort of almost freeing up your mind and your cognitive ability because you learning to respect your gut is something that has a profound effect. And I don't know if people actually understand and realize how important that is. And as you said, within a few days, how effective that is. Can we touch on a little bit of maybe some of either the research that you guys have done or that you've seen with sort of turnaround in getting the gut healthy again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just to reinforce, though, that we're speaking the same language about the Hippocratic Oath and so on. The first yogurts in the world that were truly commercialized for sale were produced in Spain after the Second World War It was Danone's founder, in fact, who produced that yogurt. His name was Isaac Carasso, and he developed yogurt in response to gastrointestinal issues in children who were experiencing malnutrition after the war. And yogurt was viewed to be such a medicinal food at that time that it was actually retailed in pharmacy settings only because it was viewed to be a medicine. Now, today, fast forward over 100 years later, we know that it's a mainstream food that you can buy every day. And that's good news. We have access to it. And I think that is maybe one of the profound findings of research that I really like to drill home in opportunities like this, is that we tend to, when we think about nutrition science, want to be overwhelmed by extremist behavior and impressive revelations. And it is impressive, but often good nutrition advice actually comes back to the topic of moderation. It comes back to the topic of consistency, and it comes back to the topic of variety. And you ask me now, how quickly can one start to influence your gut microbiome? Within 2 days of making certain dietary changes, you can actually start to manipulate and influence that community of microbes that are in your gut. And it doesn't take fancy supplements. It doesn't take expensive, extreme approaches. It's actually really, really relatable, affordable advice that can get you there. And it's 3 things, Nick. The first one is that you want to begin with a diet which is extremely rich in plant-based foods. So your plant-based foods are, plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables. Let's call them that because that's what they are, fruits and vegetables. They are rich in fiber. They are rich in vitamins and minerals. They are rich in phytochemicals, colors, healthy nutrients for the gut. These things are the fuel for beneficial gut bacteria, and they are fuel for a thriving, healthy, diverse gut microbiome. And if you need some advice, just the recommendation is 5 a day. Aim to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You'll be alarmed how few people actually reach that target every day. And then if you need to challenge yourself a little further, think about the variety of the fruits and vegetables that you're eating, and aim to eat at least 30 different types of fruits and vegetables in a week.
Right.
Write them down for yourself at home today. You think you probably have quite a diverse diet. In general, people are eating between 12 to 15 different types of fruits and vegetables, and the variety is not enough actually to foster that healthy, diverse gut microbiome.
And
so that's number one.
And in South Africans, we're spoilt for fruit and veg.
Yes. And when people tell me that they struggle to follow a healthy diet because it's expensive and so on, I wonder, what is that South African eating? Because I'm asking you to eat broccoli, nachos, bananas, carrots, tomato, onion. These are extremely affordable and helpful, valuable plant-based foods. So up your fruits and vegetable intake. This is again and again in the nutrition science, the number one thing which has an impact on your gut health. The second thing you want to do is concentrate on your fiber intake. Now, this one, people struggle with this because fiber is not actually such a popular or well-known message. I'm also talking about this in the context of your average diet, right? If you're someone with unique condition of the gut, you will obviously need to follow unique advice. But as an average Joe in South Africa, you need to have around 25 grams of fiber a day. This is partially coming from all these beautiful fruits and vegetables that you're now eating, your 5 a day, but also in your starchy foods or your carbohydrate foods. These foods, these are your bread, your pasta, your maize, your breakfast cereals, these kinds of foods. Whenever you're choosing a starchy food, make sure that you're choosing the version which is a source of fiber as opposed to the white refined version. It means taking the whole wheat bread instead of the white bread. It means choosing the brown rice instead of the white rice. And if in every one of your fiber choices, your starch choices, you're choosing the fiber source over the plain refined source, you are fostering this healthy gut microbiome. And that is essential to contributing to your overall health. So these 2 things, by the way, are not expensive recommendations that I've made. They're just small lifestyle changes. And then the third thing that you can do, which is still emerging in the science, is make sure that you have a source of live cultures in your diet every day. Now, that sounds difficult, but it's really not. Our most common sources of live cultures are things like fermented foods. Yogurt is an excellent example. Amasi, for anyone interested in mass, this is an excellent example. If you are interested in your fermented veggies, things like sauerkraut and kimchi and so on, we've got some listeners, I'm sure, who are producing their own at home. That's amazing. Go for it.
Absolutely.
But daily, have that intake of live cultures, which when you consume them are literally adding to the abundance and diversity of the microbes of the gut, which we know is a sign and an indicator of a healthy gut microbiome, which yields all the benefits that we talked about earlier. So in 3 simple steps, that is the advice to support a healthy gut. Increase your fruit and vegetable intake, increase your intake of fiber, and minimize and control the white refined foods in our diets. And then make sure you're having a daily source of live cultures or bacteria in the form of fermented dairy is really easy, or fermented vegetables if you get there. These 3 things make an enormous difference. And as I say, by making those dietary changes, you already see a change in your gut microbiome within 48 hours of intake. And, it's affordable changes, they're healthy lifestyle changes, and in the end, your health benefits will reap the rewards of those changes.
I think just also to touch on something with that, with fruit and veg, whole fruit and veg, have the fiber. Juicing and smoothies have become such a popular trend, but they have certain challenges that they come with in terms of your glucose spike, the amount of fiber, how you're getting it. And I think also from a satiation point of view, whole fruit and veg, it's a wonderful thing because of the fiber. And, if you can get it in raw as much as possible, absolutely wonderful. And what a journey to go on to start exploring the options that we have available. It's not about apples and bananas and a salad with tomato, lettuce, cucumber, and carrots. There's a lot more for us to eat.
Oh, yeah, it's a very exciting world out there. I mean, juicing, it gets its popularity here and there. It comes up in fads. Remember, the concern with juicing is that you literally remove the fibrous components of that beautiful whole fruit or vegetable, and you chuck it away. What a waste, what a loss. And then you are left with a juice which has some nutrients in it, but you've removed an essential component of the fiber, which is adding so much to your diet. I'm then therefore more biased towards a smoothie, because at least in a smoothie you're blending the whole fruit or the whole vegetable, right? And you still get the fiber benefit of it. And maybe if you are very busy in the morning and it's a way of getting your nutrients in through a quick smoothie on the go, then I fully endorse that decision. I'm definitely pro smoothies over juicing for sure.
100%. I think what maybe the perfect food really then, or breakfast, would be tzatziki, which is your yogurt, your cucumber, some lemon juice, some garlic, and dunking some vegetables in that. I mean, what a great way to start the day. Just to look at as well the connection, because we're in flu season, between our immunity and our immune health and our gut, and those 70% of our microbiomes being in our gut. How does that relate to our immunity and our ability to resist infections?
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Yeah, as we're going into winter, of course, it's flu season. Our cold and flu incidence is going up, and I'm sure everyone is looking for tips and tricks to support their immunity over the season. And what people don't realize actually is that 70% of your immune system is located in the gut. Fascinating. And so, therefore, by protecting your gut health and making sure you maintain and protect your gut's integrity, you also, by default, are protecting and supporting your immune system. So by following this advice that we talked about just now, by increasing your fruit and veg intake, increasing your fiber intake, getting that source of live cultures in your daily diet, you help to protect the environment of the gut. If the gut is happy and protected and its integrity is maintained, you are indirectly also protecting your immune system, because we know the bulk of that immune system is sitting in that gut area. So yeah, your top tip for protecting health this winter, start with the gut.
Start with the gut. I think with everything, start with the gut. If you're stressed, start with the gut. If you're tired, start with the gut. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. One thing also to touch on then is whenever I get told to, all right, I'm sick, I need antibiotics, I'm always told, have yogurt, if you can, before and certainly after, to bring your gut health back up. Can we touch on that a little bit, the effect of antibiotics on our gut and why yogurt is so valuable in bringing gut health back?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that in our current lifestyles, our gut health is under attack. Just in our day-to-day way of being. I mean, the more exposed you are, for example, to the outside world and to the environment and various microbes in the natural atmosphere, the healthier your gut is. The more rest you get as an individual, good quality sleep, the healthier your gut is.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a teenager. That was back in the 80s.
Yeah, you see, some science really stands for sure. Yep. The true science stands. The more diverse and interesting your diet, the more healthy your gut is. So, on the flip side of that, what is the reality of our lifestyles and what they look like today? We have low exposure to the outside world, unless you're one of the blessed lucky few who are traveling out to the wilderness or to the country on a regular basis, maybe out to the bush. That's good. Do more of that. Go to the park as often as you can, get a pet, etc. You're looking for that. But the reality is that we are kind of cooped up in our city dwellings, and our exposure to positive, diverse, beneficial microbes is lower because of that lifestyle element. We are stressed under poor sleep conditions. It's having an attack on our microbiome. We are having poor quality diets with low diversity, low fruits and vegetable intake, low fiber intake. That has an impact on our microbiome. And then the other factor is our exposure to various medications and sometimes the inappropriate use of antibiotics, which when you consume an antibiotic, it makes perfect sense that the role of that antibiotic is to remove bacteria from your body, which is very helpful and beneficial if there is negative bacteria to remove.
Yes.
But the problem is that we may be, in some cases, over-indexing, taking antibiotics too often. We remove all the bacteria from our body, including the beneficial bacteria, and this leaves a space or an opportunity for opportunistic, harmful bacteria to thrive and grow in its place. So it's a tricky situation because our gut health is under attack based on our lifestyles, based on our inappropriate antibiotic use at times. I want to be careful when I say that because obviously there's a moment where it's indicated and don't go gung-ho on me and swear off antibiotics. They have their role to play.
Absolutely.
But it's really important that we make sure that we take them when appropriate and not over-index their use inappropriately. And then at the same time, do our best to compensate for these lifestyles which are harming our gut health inadvertently by losing diversity to the outside world, losing diversity through our diets, harming our gut health through stressful, low sleep, low rest lifestyles. You actively need to take a role in improving these elements of your lifestyle so that you can foster a healthy gut. So when it comes to antibiotics, it's a long way of getting around to your question.
It's a great way. Loving it. Yeah.
If, of course, it's indicated you've had an antibiotic, remember that one of the things that you can do is, now that you're aware that the the bacteria, positive and negative, is being removed from your gut as a result of this antibiotic use. You want to take the active steps to make sure that you're fostering the growth of beneficial bacteria in your body as quickly as possible again. And one easy way to do that is literally to ingest those live cultures, to eat that beneficial bacteria. And this is why eating yogurt and literally consuming the live cultures that yogurt has to offer is a way of replenishing and replacing those bacteria which get removed from the antibiotics.
I absolutely love that. We are chatting with Leanne Kiezer from Danone, South Africa, registered dietitian and public affairs officer, head of, boss. Okay. I'm getting so excited about this. It's such a simple, and the reason that I am, and just before we pay the rent, it's a profound way to affect our quality of life and our health. I'm a huge yogurt fan. I don't know, Leanne, if you picked up on that. But we'll be back right after this.
This is Medical Monday, brought to you with the compliments of Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
You're listening to the Dis-Chem Medical Monday show here on 101.9 Chai FM. I'm having an absolute blast chatting with Leanne Kiezer. I keep saying Kaiser. I got it right. Kiezer, sorry. And Leanne is a registered dietitian and head of public affairs at Danone, South Africa. Leanne, I think for me, to just from a personal point of view, I eat yogurt at least 6 times a week. And for me, my favorite is sort of, a good quality Greek yogurt left in the fridge. I don't want to get into trouble here. 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks past used by date. It's perfectly fine. I find it gets a bit thicker. Mixing that in with blueberries, with a raw honey and with some cinnamon, and just something that's a delicious meal and a go-to. And profoundly with my own gut issues, I can't have plain milk, full cream, because my gut doesn't like it. I bloat, I get uncomfortable. But yogurt, I've never ever had a problem with. And it's the most wonderful food. And it's a quick, healthy, simple meal. You can take it to school in your lunchbox. You can take it with you to work. Leave it in the fridge. Just make sure you mark it properly, because a lot of corporates have yogurt thieves. We all know about that. And I think just being such an incredible food versus what we are faced with our ultra processed food. What is the effect that has on the body and our gut versus eating our fruits and veg and our good quality yogurts that we have the option to just improve our quality of life with? And then after that, I want to throw in a question about yogurt and powerlifting. This is something I want to get answered for myself. So here we go. What's happening to our body when we go the ultra processed food route? And people think because it's cheaper and easier to get their hands on, but it's stuff that spikes our blood sugar, keeps us hungry every 2 hours, keeps us munching, versus, I don't know, I don't get hungry after yogurt. So, such a great thing. If we can just touch on that.
Yeah, for sure. So, the trouble with ultra processed foods, what do we mean by this basically, is foods which have all of their original nutrient properties stripped out of them. And they get recombined into a food which is so extensively processed that none of the original nutrient properties are intact by the time you consume it. And so what do you get from that food? You get an excess of calories, you get an excess of fat, you get an excess of salt, and you get an excess of sugar. And these nutrients, when consumed in excess, are pro-inflammatory nutrients. On a micro level and a macro level in your body, these nutrients are causing pro-inflammatory responses. And over time, these are leading to chronic diseases of lifestyle. They are literally the cause of excess weight gain and obesity, heart disease, high cholesterol levels, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, certain forms of cancer. And it's because your body's reaction to those, well, I call them nutrients, but I know nutrients is a positive word. So these are ingredients that you should be moderating. Moderating in your diet, is that this pro-inflammatory response. And so what we call these ultra-processed foods is we call them very calorie-dense, nutrient-poor. They're basically hollow foods. They're foods with a lot of noise and no depth. So they're adding hunger fill and inflammation to your diet, but they are not adding nutrient benefit to your diet. And on the flip side of that is something that we call a nutrient-dense food. And a nutrient-dense food by its nature is one which is relatively low in calories, sugar, fat, and salt, but in exchange is extremely high. It's bursting with abundance in vitamins, minerals, fibers, proteins. And when you consume those nutrients, they have an anti-inflammatory impact on the body. So at the very micro level of the body is, in an anti-inflammatory capacity. You are less likely to become inflamed, develop excess weight gain, develop long-term chronic diseases of lifestyle. And then by their nature, whole foods like your fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat products, eggs, beans, lentils, and so on, these are these nutrient-dense foods. And by their nature, the ultra-processed foods, which look nothing like the original way they grew, these foods are offering these calorie-dense foods, these very hollow foods, which are pro-inflammatory. And so, I also want to be realistic about the fact that we have busy modern lives, I get it. But you need to be actively aware of the proportion of your plate and diet to make sure that most of your food choices are coming from a recognizable whole food source. Because if most of your food choices are coming from an ultra-processed food source where you actually don't recognize the original food ingredient, the way it grew from the earth, you are in a pro-inflammatory state of diet. And I say in the long term, but not that long term, you will experience excess weight gain, obesity. And unfortunately, in South Africa, that's the trend. I'm alarmed to share that even in children, recent stats showed that 24% of South Africa's children are now either overweight or obese. We've never experienced this kind of extent, this prevalence of obesity and overweight in our country before. And it's because of the excessive intake of these extremely calorific, nutrient-poor, ultra-processed foods. And so it's not to swear them off completely. All foods fit. I understand they have a role to play in the diet, but really try to adopt sort of an 80-20 principle when it comes to your eating. 80% of your foods should be whole foods that you recognize from the source, and less than 20% can be potentially these ultra-processed foods, which are helping you get through life from a convenience perspective. And try to maintain that balance to protect your long-term health.
I think that's such profound health advice, good advice, longevity advice. And I also understand and respect the situation that so many South Africans are in, where it's also cost and education and understanding of what's available and what can be eaten. But it's ultimately we pay. So we're either going to pay the cheaper price now and the more expensive price later with our health, or pay a little bit more potentially now and have a much cheaper old age and better quality of life. Because, you don't want to be eating food where the packaging may have more nutrients than the food that you're putting into your system, and not wanting to be anti that. One of the questions that I wanted to touch on from a personal point of view. So I'm involved in strength sports. We live stream it. I've competed. I've won gold twice for South Africa in powerlifting. It's a lot of fun. And speaking about inflammation, there's a big hit on the system from hard training. And yogurt is, for me, a huge help. It's my personal experience. How are we finding yogurt is the info on that in elite sports and sort of these products, these fermented products? in dealing with performance enhancement and recovery. So I think...
Yeah. I mean, congratulations, first of all. I didn't realize I was talking to such an athlete. And I gather, that you've had an experience and a journey in the past of testing different foods and seeing how your body reacted to them.
Absolutely.
So let me begin with the role of dairy in recovery when it comes to elite sports. Dairy is essential to effective recovery. And why is that? Dairy, by its nature, is what we call a nutrient-dense food. By its nature, it's incorporating 3 key nutrient groups, actually 4 key nutrient groups. It's naturally a source of protein, which is essential for muscle recovery after a strenuous exercise. It's naturally a source of carbohydrates or lactose, that naturally occurring intrinsic sugar, which is not harmful sugar. It's very beneficial sugar, which is also there to support recovery and replenish glycogen stores after a tough workout. It's naturally a source of some fats. And what's key about those fats is that fats are a source of fatty vitamins, your vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are essential to your immunity and also to recovery post-workout. And also, dairy by its nature is also really rich in fluids, which is essential for fluid recovery and rehydration after training. So, science has recommended, even you're an elite athlete, but, some of us are not. Some of us just run a 10K on a Sunday. And even
that's
for your average, even for just regular workouts, even for children who have done an activity after school and they've done a bit of a sports practice or so on, it is recommended that dairy foods are encouraged after that activity within 30 minutes to be able to support the recovery, replenishment, rehydration, recovery of the muscles, because the dairy food is so nutrient dense by its nature that it's helping to replenish all of those various components. Then there's the question of yogurt, which is basically this nutrient-dense dairy food, but even further enhanced because it's got a new element to it. And that element is the element of fermentation. Fermentation, remember, is the fact that we're adding live cultures or bacteria to the milk to produce certain properties, this delicious creamy yogurt. And when you consume that yogurt, you eat that bacteria, you eat the live cultures as well. And then, in addition to all this recovery benefit that I've talked about, you're also getting the benefit of the gut health element, which is a whole new element to recovery because the gut health is linked to immunity, which we spoke about earlier. It's linked to decreased inflammation. I can only begin to imagine the emerging science, which is talking about gut health and the role of gut health in influencing sports performance overall. But the beauty of yogurt is that it's adding an extra element of benefit because of fermentation. And you touched on this earlier, but maybe just to finish off with this point, many people, especially in South Africa, struggle with the concept of lactose intolerance, right? So lactose is the type of carbohydrate that you naturally find in milk. And if you consume too much of it, you may experience some discomfort. Not everybody experiences this, but a lot of South Africans do. And the beauty of yogurt and fermentation is that live cultures actually digest the lactose, which is in the milk. And so yogurt has a much, much lower lactose content than your original dairy product does. And so people can actually, even if they have lactose intolerance, can consume yogurt without any gastrointestinal discomfort, and they can get the benefit of that dairy product without any risk of being uncomfortable, even if they have lactose intolerance, because the live cultures in that yogurt have digested the lactose content. And that's an amazing piece of news for all South Africans. Anyone struggling with lactose intolerance, you can still enjoy the benefits of dairy by having it in the form of yogurt because the lactose content is so much lower.
I absolutely love that. And that's brought up 2 questions, and we're running out a little bit of time, but I want to drop them in. And just before we start to wrap up, this is such a valuable show. This is not me trying to hint at Howard that I want 2 hours for my show, but we'll get there. So a couple of things, with the lactose, absolutely, I love it. That's how I can get my dairy in. I can't deal with milk. Even in a bowl of cereal, for example, or muesli, I'm not going to be as comfortable as I could with yogurt. From an elite athlete point of view, and having coached athletes at national and at international level, and seen what some athletes eat, and it's quite terrifying. Fast foods, burgers, chips, all of these things, even steak. And trying to explain to them that there's a huge energy requirement for digestion, and the more maybe complex and refined the food, the more energy it's taking from you. So if you're going to eat a burger before your competition, 4 hours into the competition, you're going to drop energy. What are the energy requirements on yogurt and on dairy for the breakdown versus a burger as example? I know it's a very technical question, and I hope that we can sort of answer that. But this is, yogurt's the superfood for performance athletes. I mean, Michael Phelps spoke openly of chocolate milk while he was training. That's his recovery drink. And, US Olympic athletes, gold medalists are doing that, then something we should be listening to.
You're reminding me of a saying, which is that we are currently in the times of fast foods and slow digestion.
Yeah.
What a terrible time is that. And the beauty of yogurt, I love that you called it a superfood. Thank you for that. The beauty of yogurt is when you consume yogurt, you consume live cultures that support and bolster effective digestion. It means that the more yogurt you consume, the more you are improving the capacity of your gut to be able to digest effectively, quickly, extract the maximum nutrient capacity that a food has to offer. You are giving your body the ability to make the most of the nutrients that you feed it, because you are supporting absorption, you are supporting digestion, you are literally preparing that gut to be the most effective vehicle to unlock the nutrients from the food that you give it. So that is probably why we see this incredible superfood capacity of yogurt, especially in training and sports.
So I think, and then just before we pay the rent, the one thing I sort of wanted to say was, and what I found personally is that the effect on my body is stable, meaning what I felt like 5 years ago to today or tomorrow in a competition, I can eat it and know what I'm going to feel like, knowing what my energy levels will be as I go into warm up for a squat, as an example, and in 4 hours time when I'm lifting my final deadlift. There's no surprise and there's no bloating. When you're putting on a massive belt to go under a bar or to lift up a deadlift, it can be it's a lot of load on your gut, and you want that gut as comfortable as possible. So hopefully we can get this into every elite athlete's mindset and coach's mindset as a food. So I love your thoughts on that when we're back from paying the rent. And then I'd just like some of your advice for our listeners as we wrap up. You're listening to the Dis-Chem Medical Monday Show. I'm Nicholas Ingle, chatting with Leanne Kiezer, and just probably well over time. The producers are going to be shouting at me, but such an important topic.
This is Medical Monday, brought to you with the compliments of Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Thank you for joining us on today's show. It's been wonderful to have you listening, and to our wonderful guest, Leanne, thank you for your time. As we start to wrap up, what advice would you have for our listeners and our athletes out there?
Absolutely. So remember, your gut is the gateway to your health. Begin with the gut. How can you do that? There are 3 key steps every day. Increase your intake of fruits and vegetables. Increase your intake of fiber foods. Increase your intake of live cultures, easily from foods like yogurt and mass, for example. In general, the easiest way to get those 3 sorts of foods into your diet is to choose more whole foods over more refined, ultra-processed foods. And it means, frankly, a bit more cooking at home. Learn how to cook, guys. Right?
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
when it comes to yogurt specifically, concentrate on that as a food to be incorporated into your diet every day. The recommendation is that you should have 2 servings of yogurt a day. That's about 200 grams. It's 2 individual little tubs of yogurt as you find them on the market.
No. Those are samples. Let's talk 400-500 grams. Then because it's a treat.
If you're an athlete, you can have much more. Let me say that. But for, kids to regular adults, we
normal humans,
mere mortals, we're encouraging just 2 little tubs a day to begin your journey towards better gut health. And that's my advice and wrap up for the day.
And such great wrap up, because it's what we eat can very strongly determine our health going forward. It does determine our health going forward because it's the effect that we have on our gut. If you are training hard or just wanting to look after yourself, make sure that you're boosting and supporting your immune system by supporting your gut. Leanne, the most wonderful chat. I've had an absolute blast. Thank you for the wonderful information that you shared. Thank you for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure, Nick. I've really had a good time. Thanks a mil.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to you, our listeners, for joining us here on the Dis-Chem Medical Monday show on 101.9 Chai FM. I'm Nicholas Single, and I'll chat with you next week.